No,
much
no,
do
no.
you charge for this? If you don't mind. What's your price range normally for something like this?
Microphone.
I'm actually an employee of the architect, so I put together the drawing. So
Mr. Beatty, if you can come up and address any questions.
I just want to know, not saying specifically for this job, but just in general, do you normally deal with landmarking issues as an architect?
I do.
Okay, normally what is the price range of hiring an architect to come and do something like that? Just price range, just ballpark, not make it whole.
I'm actually an employee of the architect, so I get paid hourly.
Well, I can ask you your pay.
Yeah. So I'm not privy necessarily to all the breakdowns, but I do know that there is an hourly fee that ranges somewhere around probably $100 an hour, more or less, depending on who's working on it, a drafter or somebody who's a project manager. So you take into that the hours it would take to do a whole set of drawings, you take into it the meetings.
How many hours?
Why is that relevant?
Depends on what you want to know.
She's just talking to this
The
truck.
relevancy is because we are
She's just
thinking
talking to this
about
truck, that's all.
going into being landmarked. We now have in front of us two perfect examples of what could happen to my house. Again, I'm concerned about cost. I know architects are expensive. So I just want to know what could be, I have no clue what could be if I wanted to change something.
My architect charges me $8 an hour. He's an intern architect. Intern architect, $8 an hour.
Could I answer her question?
Yes.
As a homeowner, I filed for our front facade, 4-floor brick limestone, to be have windows replaced. There are 4 window sets on the top, 3 window sets on the 3rd floor, and then a parlor and a ground floor window. You're looking at a price for just the architect of about $2,000 or up.
Thank you.
All right, that's a ballpark.
Thank you. That's
Yeah, we have another question, Becky, would you say that? Yes.
I just want to know if these neighborhoods, I'm not sure how long you've lived there, how long you've moved there, but you know what you're getting into when you move to the neighborhood, it's a landmark area. So why do you all of a sudden want to make changes to what we know existing here? Why?
You asking that,
Repeat the question, please. Repeat the question.
Our area is desirable because of the landmark status. People know that already. Why can't they abide by what's already in place?
she's basically saying, if you bought the property, you know it's landmark, and you know that there's certain requirement, why do you now decide that you want to make changes?
So for example, the rear facade is not seen anywhere, so I would say that's almost to the side. For the front facade, but we're painting black, 1940s photos, tax photos, which is what the landmarks goes by in order to prove what it used to be historically, shows the trim on this property.
1973, that area, 1973, right? 79. Before that, around that time, it has nothing to do with 1945. Every time it does. Because they like it. Anybody else can do that, and the movement can have a different look. I think we should stick to the rules.
I answered her original question.
Okay, Ms. Red, you can answer this question, and then we have to move on to the next items.
So as a homeowner in the 1998 for the home in Leopards Manor, we were very excited and looked forward to living in a neighborhood that was historically landmarked. When you move into a home that was built in the 18th century, it doesn't always fit 21st century needs and lifestyles. So there are things people want to do to be comfortable. They want to have air conditioning, for example. They didn't have that then. They wanted to have indoor plumbing. They had outhouses back then. There are situations that have changed in our lifestyles that we want to make comfortable for us. And that's one of the reasons we make the changes to fit the needs of your personal family's lifestyle. And you want to fit into the character of the neighborhood. We did not change the windows from what was in the 1940s tax photo. It's the same double-sash windows that we installed That was what Landmark was challenging us. Color is black and white, all right? 1940s, there were no color photos. But the color is black that matches the historical number, paint at the time. For the,
Wait a minute. Who you asking? I don't have an answer. No.
Wait, hold on a second. We got to get control of this because we asked the questions to 4371. We have to move on with the agenda items. Ma'am, if you have one last question, I'll ask you to stand up and just say the question that you want to ask to the gentleman. So did you answer the question? All right, repeat your question one time so you can answer it. Why is it necessary to change the color of 43 on the road?
Because historically, 1940 tax photo shows it black. The neighbors right now, all of theirs are black going up. They're the only one that has a white trim on the house, and they're making it more uniform.
Color on the building is actual.
No, just the trim. Just the trim, the window, the trim. Not the whole.
Not the whole building, it's the window trim. Thank you. So to the board members, we're going to be voting on these two items in business session. We're going to move on. Those are the last two items in public session. We're going to move on to the public comment period at this time. There were people who called prior on public comment period. So I'm going to ask you to come in this order. As I mentioned before, during the beginning of this meeting, in our public community board 9 policy, you have 3 minutes to speak. After your 3 minutes, we're going to ask you to kindly step away and give it to the next person. In this order, I'm going to ask you to come to my left side. But before we move on to community board 9 members who are present, the sign-in sheet is to my left. We need you to sign in. Community residents who are here, 9 board members, the sign-in sheet's over here to my right. So in this order, we have Janine Nichols. Is she here? Yeah. Can I ask you to come to my left? Ms. Suki? Sign-in sheet period is over. After Janine Nichols, we have Mr. Tim Thomas. We have Ms. Karen Fleming, and we have Felicia Robertson. So in this order, this is a public comment period. After that, we're going to go into public comment period on Maple Street Community Gardens, which is Jay Sora who called in, and then we're going to get those who signed in today. So Ms. Janine Nichols, you have 3 minutes. And we'll start, your time starts now.
Thank you. My name is Janine Nichols. I'm the secretary of the Sullivan Ludlam Stoddard Neighborhood Association. And my organization is a member of the Empire Study Group, which was supposed to be presenting our alternative vision for the future of Empire Boulevard to the Assembly tonight. Sometime yesterday, I don't know, I heard it through a grapevine because I never get any emails from CD9 despite 2 years plus of signing into meetings. It was decided that for some procedural reason, the Empire Study Group would not be permitted to present to all of you this evening. Now, when I came home last night from my birthday dinner and discovered that this had happened, I immediately rang the offices of CD9 to register to speak. It was about 10 o'clock or so. I did not really expect anyone to answer the phone. I just thought I would leave a message with my name and my number saying that I wanted to speak. But Warren Burke, whose voice I recognized, answered the telephone, and in his usual smart alecky way, hung up on me, laughed at me and hung up on me when I asked him when CD9 was planning to tell us that our presentation had been canceled. So this morning, I called again to ask to speak. And Terry Witherspoon, I guess, was sort of the office manager at this point. Terry Witherspoon seems to have managed now to put me on the email list, which is quite an accomplishment, and perhaps you should be running the whole thing. Terry Witherspoon called me and added me to the list, and about an hour or so later, Demetrius Lawrence called me on my cell phone. Now, he said to me that this is a procedural matter, and that the presentation had to be made to the ULURP committee before it could be made to the general board. I don't know that this is true, but he insists that this is true. I suggested to him that he read the text of any relevant law that would convince me that this was true, because I've seen in 2.5 years so many last-minute changes and so many transgressions of the open meetings law and the city charter and the community board's own bylaws that I am not persuaded these kind of last-minute changes don't increase the credibility of CV9. In fact, they do actually the opposite. They serve to convince me and the other people who are involved in the Empire Study Group that once again we are being thwarted in our attempts to provide an alternative vision for Empire Boulevard, and with some new last-minute excuse for why this is happening. So I ask you again, please read the relevant text in the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go to Tim Thomas, I actually want to make a comment on that, which I wanted to speak on this in the beginning of public comment period. I believe I shared it with the community executive, the community board of nines committee chairs. I want to share this before the community as well. Back in November, we had received a letter from New York State Senator Jesse Hamilton that stated Empire State Group presentation, and if you may, I'm going to read this to you. It says, "I write to direct your attention to a preliminary study of the Empire State Study Group and to urge you to favorably consider their request to offer a presentation of their findings to the community board and thereby the wider community at their earliest convenience. The Empire Study Group has shared their findings thus far with me, and I know they have put together a thoughtful presentations for the community that merits wider hearing. The study addresses key community concerns regarding the plans for Empire Boulevard between Flatbush Avenue and Rogers Avenue. Among the important topics addressed, the study explores possibilities for beautification for the adding of cultural institution and or community space to the neighborhood, as well as for greater cyclist, pedestrian, and motorist safety. The study is the result of community consultations, and cooperation between a number of long-standing neighborhood advocates and neighborhood groups, including 320 Sterling Street Tenant Association, B&W Sterling Street Block Association, Equality for Flatbush, the Movement to Protect the People, New Direction and Hearing Incorporated, and the Sullivan Ludlam Stoddard Neighborhood Association. I encourage the community board to discuss all serious proposals for this corridor with particular attention to community sensitivity and community-based studies. I appreciate your attention to this request that the Empire Study Group be permitted to offer a presentation at the upcoming board meeting. This was given to us by Senator Jesse Hamilton. That was given to us in November. The group came before the executive committee in December. They said they were not prepared to present in December's meeting. So they said they were prepared for January to present. They came before the executive committee, this is true, and we voted, inadvertently voted, and it was my remiss that we didn't allow them to go before committee, which is what happened before. I know what previous administrations have done, but what we have agreed on in this administration was that any group, New York State agency or outside group who wants to present before the full board will have to go to committees, which we have standing committees. And this is the reason why we have committees here. So we don't want to circumvent the committees. We're asking them to, they are going to present. We're not allowing them, we're not telling them they can't present. We want to follow our process that we're doing, which is allowing them to go to committee, because this was said before, and this was held to committee board nines, that saying we don't never send businesses or agencies to committee. So we're saying anyone who wants to present to a full board, go to the committee. So we have agreed that they will go to the committee, the other committee, and Mr. Rubin, I'm actually come up right now, is going to read this letter. After I had a conversation with Senator Jesse Hamilton's office, he's prepared to read this letter on behalf of the Empire State Group.
Well, this letter is actually from my office, State Senator Jesse Hamilton. It's bear with me for a moment. Okay, January 29th, today, is to Demetrius Lawrence, Chairman of Community Board 9. Dear Mr. Lawrence, we are writing to reiterate our support for a public presentation by the Empire Study Group at the Community Board 9 Board at the next meeting. We previously wrote to support this presentation in a letter dated November 19, 2015. The community boards are a powerful resource for community groups to share their ideas on land use issues. And so we hope the Empire Study Group has an opportunity to add their voice in a timely manner. The presentation to the full board had already been approved by Community Board 9's Executive Committee for the January meeting, the January board meeting. This letter is follow-up to our conversation today with you today, confirming that we will present at the February ULURP Committee meeting, as well as the public presentation to the full Community Board on February 23 of next month, 2016. Please confirm the details regarding the February ULURP meeting's location and time by email to the Empire Boulevard at gmail.com or by phone at 218-703-3086. It is signed Yours in Service, State Senator Jesse Hamilton, 26th Senate District. Thank you.
Not to circumvent the chair for our ULURP committee, we have Mr. Michael Levert, who's in the back, and we appreciate his service. So the next person who's on the public comment period in this order.
Excuse me, I would like to speak.
Ms. Boyd, I have the floor. The next person who will speak is Tim. You have a speaking moment, but it's not this time. Tim Thomas, come at this time, please.
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to move until after Alicia if she wants to be heard.
Well, there's an order. We're going to go on. So if you're relinquishing your time, you want to speak, you speak. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. The reason I wanted to talk today is that there have been issues that have been brought before the board about both my behavior, things that I've said and things that I've written. As many of you know, I have a blog. The city charter is very clear on what activities are okay for board members to essentially to use their First Amendment rights to talk about, to write about, anything that's of interest to them. The only thing that we're not allowed to do is to vote on matters where we have a conflict of interest. What a conflict of interest is if I have a personal financial gain that can be obtained by either lobbying for or voting on a particular issue. So I kind of want to nip that one in the bud. I know that I'm very opinionated. It's something my wife reminds me of all the time. But I also want to just talk about something personal, which is, in the first 10 years that I lived in this neighborhood, I don't think I ever raised my voice or raised a finger to any neighbor, ever. And then something happened. This community board, where I used to come in feeling very loose and happy to see all my friends and neighbors, it started to feel like a battleground. And as has been the case with many other community board meetings, I walked in here and I had this feeling. My spine went up and I felt like I was going into battle. And I don't like that feeling. I don't know how many people can relate to it, but there's got to be a way that we can continue to have civil discourse and disagree. I love disagreeing, believe me. I love a good argument. But I also like resolution, and I also like compromise. I don't hear a lot of compromise these days. I hear a lot of anger, I hear a lot of shouting, and I also hear a lot of accusing. So the last thing I want to say is that we are all volunteers. We all asked on one level or another to be appointed. We are not experts. And this has become very much of a legal battleground, and I've watched this happen again and again, where people have accused people of corruption when in fact they're just human beings making mistakes. I made a mistake, didn't put something in the minutes I should have, and I feel bad about it. But it's not illegal to make a mistake, especially if you're contrite about it and you want to make it right. So with all of that said, I hope that we can sort of move forward with the tone down a little bit. Thanks.
Thank you. The next person to speak is Karen Fleming. Appreciate everyone staying within their time. You have 3 minutes, Ms. Lemon.
My name is Karen Fleming. I sit on the Transportation Committee. And one of the things that a lot of people were concerned about was what was going on with the Empire Boulevard plan on both ends, on the Flatbush Avenue end and also on the Utica Avenue end. And I wanted to let people know that as far as I understand, I could be incorrect, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. We are now, the Transportation Committee is now going back to what would be considered square one having to do with that project. In other words, whatever has transpired up until now is a dead issue, and we are beginning again with a reevaluation of the project as it has been presented to us by DOT et al. And so the members of the community and members of the community board who were concerned about that, and was kind of like out of the window, it's back inside now, and so now we will be meeting again as the Transportation Committee to revisit the entire issue, beginning at the beginning, as opposed to wherever it has gotten to and whatever happened to it over time. So I wanted to let people know that. The other thing that I want to say, which I wasn't going to say anything about that, is I respect everybody's First Amendment rights. However, when you call people out and your statements preclude their ability to answer you in a fair and reasonable way, then you kind of can't have it both ways. I wasn't even going to speak on that, but since it's been mentioned, you know, yes, everybody has their First Amendment rights, and I'm going to the wall with you to be able to speak and say whatever it is that you want to say as an individual. But when you stand here and you say to me, okay, I have a position, volunteer or not, and there's a constant thing of errors being made and, excuse me, but lies being told, my problem then becomes you can't have it both ways. You can say whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want here.
Thank you. So before we go to the next person, I do want to speak on that point that you were referring to, the Transportation Committee. We had a meeting at the board office with the Transportation Committee and its chair members and the chair, along with the Executive Committee and some of the board members and the board committee chairs who were there because of the omission of him including the vote in the minutes for last year of September and October. We took a vote at this year's Transportation Committee meeting, but we're making it null and void. We're going to bring all of the issues regarding Empire Boulevard, Franklin, and Utica back to the Transportation Committee from the beginning, and we get a full concept of what's going on with DOT, and then we'll go for the final vote to bring it back to the board. You can look at our website. I don't know off the top of my head. Tim, your next Transportation Committee, you know what's up?
I asked Terry to move it to the second Wednesday because it's spring break the following, or winter break the following.
So the second Wednesday of February?
It's February 10th.
February 10th now.
It's a Wednesday.
Thank you. The next person to come up is Felicia Robertson. 3 minutes and all.
My name is Felice Robertson. I am delegate of District Council 47 Local 5029. I also, co-received with Weber.